But I've been doing my journey through Legends of the Dark Knight, and I'm up to 1992 now. And as stated, I pitched it last time before. I'm going into the 3-issue arc that Matt Wagner had, which is good. Matt Wagner's a great artist. He's written some wonderful things. This is, let me get them in order here. It starts with issue 28, and it's Faces. It's a Two-Face story. So, Legends of the Dark Knight, 28. This is 1992. It's got ads for Batman Returns is coming up. It's coming out in June. Batman Returns, which is good. Batman Returns is kind of a Christmas movie, so it's weird that it came out in June. But I guess summer blockbusters, that's just when those things came. But these covers are brilliant. It's a 3-issue arc. I'll say that it's the art is wonderful. The art is Matt Wagner's art, as you know it. The writing is not... It's not the best story you've ever read by Matt Wagner. Okay? It's not bad, but it's early Matt Wagner. It's not his best story. There are some moments here or there where if I was an editor, I'd have been like, you really want to go that route there? My biggest critique of it, story-wise, is that Batman gets captured twice on the same night by Two-Face's little gang there or whatever. Now, I get it. You can say, well, this is the why, because he didn't, when he was trying to pull his punches, because these people, he didn't know if they were enemies or not. Yeah. Batman would never allow himself to get captured twice in the same night. You can maybe pull it off once. I didn't like that. That just grated against me as a Batman fan. But Batman is purely iconic. He's the iconic Batman, real deal, in this story. Two-Face is great in this story, and it's a really interesting sort of lesson or kind of moral of the tale in a way. I don't want to give away too many of the details, but I'll just say this much. In this story, on this character arc, Two-Face he's gathering up our circus, sideshows in Europe. Apparently they were more prevalent in Europe at the time. I don't know if they're even really still go on hardly all anymore, but they used to be big business even in America, and there's places in Florida where they would all go sort of to live out the winter months and whatnot before they go back on the road with state fairs and carnivals and whatnot. But he gets this gang around him of all of these sideshow freaks, the bearded lady, the dog face boy, all the typical ones, the obese woman, the thin man, all those kind of ones. And he's trying to, because, Two-Face himself is scarred on one side of his face, and he's trying to get them all together to sort of go to this island where they can all live and not be freaks or whatever. It's a weird take on Two-Face, because you tend to think of Two-Face stories more about fate, not him really thinking of himself as a freak. But it can work, and I think if this story was ever developed into like an animated film or whatever, you could really develop that well and really make it an interesting role. But in the 3-issue arc, the story, it's fascinating because by the end of it, and I know maybe this spoils a little bit, but there's still plenty to the story. There's still I do recommend you read it because it's a great 3-issue arc. Legends of the Dark Knight, Faces by Matt Wagner. But by the end of the story, you get a lot of the sideshow freaks that he's gathered together are saying, well, I actually don't feel all that put upon. I mean, I've got a family. I've made some good money in my day, this and that. Well, hey, I'm actually not, I actually don't want to go live on an island. I don't think I'm actually that victimized as you think we are, or something like that. That's the basic general consensus of a lot of these freaks. And it's an interesting little lesson or truth that Two-Face experiences before Batman captures him, because a lot of times when we feel victimized in any way, we feel we are treated unfairly by life or by others in some kind of way, it's just human nature to look for community. It's human nature to try to bond with others who have a similar experience. Sometimes, though, when we let our trauma define us, and that's what Batman's villains do, right? Batman did not let his trauma define him. He positively reacted against his trauma to help others not to have to face that trauma, right? That's Batman's story. But all of his supervillains, in one way or the other, they let their trauma define them. Whether it's Two-Face, oh, my face is scarred up now, nothing means nothing, everything's about fate. Whether it's the Joker, whatever story, whatever thing had happened to him back in the day, now he doesn't believe that he believes in anarchy and so forth, and no true values and whatnot. You know, so all of his villains being ostracized as a child, like, you know, Enigma or Cobblepot or whatever. So all of them let their trauma define them in some way. And when you let your trauma define you, you're never really going to find community, because you're not looking for real human connections. You're looking for validation. And that's what Two-Face is doing in this story. He's not looking for real human connections by other people who may have gone through something similar to him. Let's have a community. Let's help each other, or whatever, support group or whatever. No, he's not. And a lot of people, you see this on the internet so many times. How many people aren't really looking for community? They're looking for validation for how they're reacting to whatever they've been through, you know? And you can see that in a lot of ways. I mean, we see it I talk about it, maybe not directly in this angle, but I talk about it a lot when I talk about how many people are counterintuitively, you know, by going off this anti-woke thing and doing all the reviews and going to all their channels and doing all this kind of stuff. They're just kind of keeping woke alive because they're feeding it. But that kind of person isn't really about, hey, look at the way the culture's treating us for not jiving with its ideology. Look at the way the culture's ruining all of our mythologies and so forth. And, you know, there is a group of people, and there's such a thing as finding comfort in that common experience with other fans who feel the same way. You know, we all here have pretty much, you know, a lot of us here anyway, have that pretty much similar experience. But you can take it to the next level where you find your identity in that. And in a lot of channels, even, you look at them, they become the anti-woke channel. They're not a channel about putting forth good story. They're not doing reviews. They're not pointing you towards great stuff that you should really go be looking at. All they're doing is, you know, they hate this. Oh, they just said the worst thing ever. Oh, yeah, you know, it's a grift. And, you know, they're letting people, they're encouraging people, subconsciously or otherwise, to define themselves by what they're against, you know? And it's good to be against things. It's good to stand up and call out crap, you know, but you can't define yourself as against, because then you end up not standing for anything yourself, you know? Sound Engraver were talking about this a lot with a lot of channels. You saw it in Comicsgate a lot. I'm not really familiar with the Iron Age much. I don't know if I've even watched a channel that actually calls itself Iron Age, but I'm sure the same thing goes on there. You know, one person, you know, like how many channels out there are just anti-Ethan Van Sciver channels? There's nothing else to them. They may try to like pitch their own stuff here and there or whatever, but like they've built their platform on being anti-Ethan Van Sciver. And it's like, okay, that's your identity then. That's kind of sad. That's kind of, you know, you don't have to like Ethan Van Sciver. Okay, maybe you got this or that against him, whatever. But, you know, so a lot of these channels just built their platform. Or maybe not just even EVS, just like being anti-Comicsgate or whatever, you know. And yeah, when you do that, you're not going to find community. You're looking for validation is what you're looking for. So this story was a great sort of illustration of that, you know, psychology behind the criminals, which is really great. It's kind of a good segue. Eventually I'm going to jump over and start looking at the Shadow of the Bat run too. Now, the Legends of the Night run, that was a new Batman title they created after the popularity of Batman 89. After the popularity of Batman Returns in 1992, they anticipated, okay, we're going to need another Batman title, a fourth one, you know, and that was Shadow of the Bat. And Shadow of the Bat, whereas the Legends of the Dark Knight dwells a little bit more on the earlier years of Batman, Shadow of the Bat looks into more of the psychology of either his villains or either him or some of his allies or whatever. It's more of a psychological exploration, and some of the arcs were really interesting. So I'll be going through that a little bit too. The other review, though, the other Batman review before I finish up here, and I'll get one last review that's not a Batman related title, sort of. But I realized that I missed the annual. You know, any comic title has an annual thrown in there too, which isn't necessarily part of a run. It's just a sort of standalone. And the first annual that the Legends of the Dark Knight did was called Duel, and it was you had a few different writers, O'Neill, Aparo, really great artists, great writers. And I won't give everything away, but you've got, it's sort of a dream state. You know that from the beginning. Batman is trudging through this Arctic conditions, this snow. He's wounded, and he's carrying this burden. He calls it his burden, and you just see it as this big green sack that he's carrying. And he goes to one of the monasteries, the sort of the martial arts monasteries that he had trained at, when he was becoming Batman. And they give him this tea to drink, and they say this is the challenge you need to go through or whatever. And he's kind of going through these sort of hallucinations. You don't know if it's brought on by the tea or what is this, a dream or whatever. But there's something affecting reality. It's something that's, that somehow this is just some symbolic hallucinations or dream state or something. That's all you know. I won't give it away by the end. I won't give away what you find out in the end. But he goes through these different scenarios, and like one is like going through sort of hell and sort of like a Dante-esque, hellscape, facing these different challenges, fighting this demon, that demon. He goes to different points in history, facing this criminal or that criminal, and a lot of the characters that he faces sort of stand in for things that he might want. Like he sees Talia al Ghul at one point, and she's offering him, pleasures to stay in the comfort and whatnot. And it's sort of the temptation for him to have a lover, to actually give in to the Al Ghuls and to have Talia as his wife, because he did have a love affair with Talia, even at this point. So it's interesting, and he's carrying along this burden, and see, the burden is the thing that makes him say no to all of these different challenges, all of these different comforts. He has to say no because he can't release that burden. He's got to carry that burden. And I won't tell you what the burden is, but by the end, when you find out what the burden is, and you get to the end of the story, it is like, yes, that is Batman. That is Batman. It's so good. I almost just want to tell you and just read the couple of the lines on the last page so badly, but I won't do it because I want you to look this up. You can find it in their comic shops or whatever. It's the Legends of the Dark Knight Annual, 1991. Duel is the name of the story, and it's so good. It is 100% iconic Batman. It's brilliant. It's a great title. So that's my review of that. Just encouraging you to check this out. And you can get these in your comic shops. I went long box diving the other day and found a ton of these, in addition to the ones I already had. They're great stuff.